Three Grots in a Vox is intended for a mature audience. This means there will be crude language and discussions of adult themes, especially if we're talking about tactical marines or Gabriel Seth. Viewer discretion is not only advised but encouraged. All opinions are our own and often given for humorous purposes. Any advice is given largely for entertainment purposes and would probably be ignored. But if you do learn something useful, count it as a win.
I was thinking to myself for a second, I was like, my background looks very yellow, and then I was like, oh yeah, because I am wearing my yellow glasses. That probably is why the background looks a little bit yellow.
They do look cool on you, I'll give you that.
Well, they're just because
I keep... sponsored by that company that makes glasses for gaming?
No. No.
So they tried to get us to stock and sell them. It's like,
Gunner,
fuck off.
Yeah.
You're not going to give us any returns rights on these fucking piece of shit glasses that you say make games look better when you watch them on the TV through these glasses. How the fuck does no? Go away.
They are reading glasses. That's what they are, right?
No,
I don't know what they are.
Glasses.
They're a fucking scam as far as I'm concerned. They were stupid.
They are literally a scam. But what they do is they say that the yellow tint means that it improves
clarity or reduces glare and
contrast
all
of what
this
you're
kind
watching.
of bullshit. Yeah.
No, but
for only £100 a pair.
And they charge a lot of money for them.
I've got a pair of the Gunner glasses.
Oh, the gunnery glass. They're different ones for shooting.
No. Like Gunner's the brand that make those gaming glasses.
You bought them. You pay your own money for them.
Yeah, I'll show you them. I've got them right here. I only know because I found them the other day. Like,
oh man,
there they are. These ones are the Steel Series ones. I don't know if that.
How much did they cost you, John?
Like $100.
Do they make
why did you pay
blind
$100
bit of fucking difference
for something that tints things slightly yellow?
Have you ever worn them while playing games?
Yeah, they're so like when you go into Boots and like they've got an aisle of shit-o glasses for people that like called reading glasses. They're just like a plus 0.5. That's what these are. That's literally all they are. They will zoom in a tiny little bit. So they said on the packaging for this one, because I remember they said because they're wrapped, then it keeps more moisture in your eyes because there's not enough surface area for the moisture to evaporate. And then they zoom. Like I said, they're reading glasses, and then they're yellow tinted. But are they worth £100? I would probably say no.
How long ago did you buy them?
About a decade.
A decade ago we didn't notice. We can't quite take the piss. But if you bought them tomorrow, John, you would not be hearing the end of this.
No, I mean I bought them before I needed glasses.
Before you had kids and when you had disposable income.
Yes, probably. And I was in GameStop in America actually, so it would have been 2011 because I bought them in America. So it was 2011, and I was in like GameStop and they had like gaming glasses. I was like, yeah, cool.
Okay, fair enough. That's really weird. I assume you're filming already.
I'm sure I bought something stupid in 2011.
That could be the weirdest cold open going. Hello and welcome everybody to this episode of Three Grots in a Vox, where we are going over army lists for
Ironstorm Spearhead. We need to stop it just to check this. Are we keeping the quite long discussion we just had that John spent $100 on gaming glasses?
We absolutely need to be, unless he edits it out in post-production and doesn't actually.
But he can't edit it out if we've just told everybody that he's just wasted 5 minutes trying to justify the £100.
Yeah,
or
and if you
$100
guys don't see this
on yellow tinted gaming glasses,
then you got to ask John what he's cut out of the video in order to try and avoid looking.
I mean, I'll show the yellow glasses. Hey, if someone wants to buy them, they're for sale. They're mint condition. Antiques. God. Yeah. So, Ironstorm. Last week it was Liberator Assault Group. This week it's Ironstorm.
Yeah, so the basic principle is we're each building a list for a particular detachment. We're going to try and go through all of them, provided we don't get bored in doing so. And we build like the first 1,000 points for people who are trying to get started with Blood Angels for the detachment, and then you top it up that 1,000 points to another 2,000. Another 2,000 points.
The thing about modern Space Marines is it really doesn't matter what chapter you play anymore.
Yeah,
the chapters are largely irrelevant. If you fancy having, Liberator Assault Group Ultramarines, then you're perfectly at liberty to do so. The only thing that matters when you choose a chapter is what special characters you get. And not all special characters are going to be useful for all detachments, as we'll probably find out today.
And if you want to have some influence into which detachment we look at next, then post a reply and tell us. And if you're a Patreon supporter of ours, then we'll pay more attention to what you have to say. So yeah, there we go.
Cool, and I got it right this week. I actually have done 1,000 and then 2,000 points.
Bloody hell. You've also got Iron Hands on there, John. Why have you got Iron Hands as our picture?
Well, it is the Ironstorm Spearhead, which was for Irons.
To be fair, we're
not
the
one traditionally associated with the Iron Hands, wasn't it?
Despite our heritage and the reason by which we all came together, we're not specifically a dedicated Blood Angels channel, even though it's like, I don't know, 90% of what we talk about anyway. So
we talked about Blood Bowl once.
We did. We talked about a lot of random crap.
And Battletech.
A whole bunch of times.
And Battletech.
90s movies and 80s movies.
Yeah. So, all right, let's keep going then. So, have you got any slide that sort of tells us a bit about Ironstorm, John, or we just go straight in for it?
I have nothing to tell us about Ironstorm, but I can tell you about Ironstorm if you want.
Excellent. Tell us about
a good place to start. What's special about Ironstorm detachment, John?
Because these sorts of things inform our decisions in the units we've taken and why. So it's worth knowing.
So the detachment rule is for every single unit in your army, Adeptus Astartes unit, you can reroll 1 hit, 1 wound, and 1 damage roll made for a model in that unit. So this is more powerful on units like Redemptor Dreadnoughts, because a Redemptor Dreadnought could reroll 1 hit in the shooting phase, could reroll 1 wound in the shooting phase, and then do it again in the close combat phase, and do it again in the Overwatch phase. Correct?
You get like 1 reroll per phase, isn't that right?
Yes.
1 reroll per unit per phase.
Yes.
So you could reroll a shooting and a wound in the same shooting phase.
Yeah.
Sorry, a hit and a wound.
Yeah, for each phase. I'll reading out the wording. Once per phase, for each Adeptus Astartes unit in your army, you can reroll 1 hit roll, 1 wound roll, or 1 damage roll made for a model in that unit. So you're going to roll one of them every phase.
Yes, but the strength comes from the fact that if a unit can be activated in like 3 phases,
then it's really powerful.
Then it's much more powerful and much better. So, like on individual infantry units, probably not that strong. If I guess if you got a guy with a thunder hammer in the unit, it becomes a little bit stronger. But I guess if you are on like a big dreadnought that's going to have a lot of weapons, you're probably going to make some misses. You're probably going to make some failed wound rolls.
Yeah.
And you're going to do that across multiple phases, then that's where it becomes really strong. And I believe this is why Redemptor Dreadnoughts are 210 points, because Iron Hands or Ironstorm Spearhead players were using it for a reroll per phase 3 times every turn.
It's not just that as well. The resilience of the Redemptor is reasonable, and if you couple that with one of the enhancements you get in the detachment that reduces the damage of an attack down to 0, you can get a pretty tanky Redemptor out of it. So there's that as well.
I think it's probably worth mentioning those because there's got its normal enhancements, and all of these are kind of geared towards this slightly more, I want to say firepower, but it's a wrong word. Arguably, it's supposed to be armored.
Yeah. So the actual detachment bonus can affect literally any unit in your army.
Yeah.
The enhancements are almost all vehicle flavored. Yeah.
But real quick before we do leave the detachment rule, it does make things that you would expect not to be good actually good as well. Like, for example, like in a squad of scouts with a single missile launcher in the squad, normally you're going to end up failing to wound or failing to hit with that missile launcher. All of a sudden, that missile launcher, so a squad of scouts where you always end up missing with a missile, suddenly in Ironstorm, that missile launcher could actually be quite useful, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you look at the strats and the enhancements, they're all kind of geared to a lot of the enhancements. 2 of them, I think, are for Tech Marines only.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of buffing of vehicles in there.
Vehicles,
There's a bit of buffing of shooting in there as well. There's not much buffing for melee.
There's one. The Flesh is Weak enhancement is probably more of a melee buff than anything else.
That's the one that gives a 4+ feel no plane, isn't it?
That's the one, for only 10 points.
And the same with like the strats as well. My favourite strat, they've got a really powerful strat for 1 CP. Ancient Fury. For 1 CP until the start of your next command phase, improve your model's move, toughness, leadership, and OC by 1. And each time you make an attack roll, re-roll once to hit.
But it
That's
only works on
horrific.
dreadnoughts, which is pretty
Stick that
cool.
on a Redemptor.
Yeah.
That's really powerful for 1 CP. I'd almost be tempted to pretty much use that every turn.
Yeah, because the extra toughness it gives the Redemptor is pretty meaningful, I think, going up to toughness.
They've got a 2-up armor save base as well. They've got armor contempt in here because every Space Marine detachment has armor contempt. They're pretty tanky.
So it's a really powerful.
Well, they can be pretty tanky.
There's some really powerful stuff in here, which I suppose is why, for a long time, this was considered the most competitive of the Space Marine detachments.
Yeah.
It is also worth noting that the stratagems and enhancements in here have been errated as part of the current balanced data slate update. So if you're looking at playing this, don't go off what's written in the codex. Either use what's in the app, the official app, because that has been updated to reflect those changes, or make sure you've read the balanced data slate as well.
Yeah,
see what the current rules are.
Okay, so keeping all that in mind, should we start looking at some lists?
Shall we? Let's go into it. No worries. First one looks like a John Army list.
It is, and I thought that
formatting
we would call.
Go on, I was just trying to figure something out there. For a second, you just written me a 1,015-point list, John.
Yeah, no, so the first 1,000 points ended up at 985, and then to bring it up to 2,000, it was 1,015. So that's where it landed. I took the Tech Marine with the aura that is all vehicles within 6 inches of him.
So that's been changed. It's worth noting that is no longer an aura.
Oh, is that the one that's been changed? Okay,
that's one of the 2 that's been changed. Yeah. It's
still
worth
powerful.
taking. It's really good, but it's not an aura. You select 1 unit in the command phase. It has to be a vehicle within 6 inches of the bearer.
Okay, cool. So then I guess remove that aura, but that's fine. So I took him because I really like lethal hits on the vehicle, and I thought that helped me name my list lethal weapons. Because I'm making silly names for these attachments in our podcast. So I thought I'd do double Redemptor, because I think they're just going to push towards the middle of the board with that Tech Marine. He can heal whoever he wants. If any of them fall below half health, they have that interesting stratagem where they can just shoot, shoot straight back at an enemy that drops them below half health. I actually originally started thinking about Vindicator tanks, because we know they're so good with that strength 14.
It's so good. It's not just that as well. When I ran in the tournament that I did earlier in the year, in like February or whatever it was, I ran 2 Vindicators and Ironstorm, and the reroll was amazing on them for the damage roll more than anything else, because you could get the rerolls to hit and everything, but putting the reroll on one of the D6 hits that got through as a damage roll just made him so much more punchy. It was amazing.
Oh, do you know what? I never even thought about that. I was thinking it would just give your Hunter-Killer missile some reliability, but sure, that makes a good call to give the Vindicators reroll on its damage, because it's always they're going to fail at least 1 against the Vindicator because it gets so many shots. The Lancer is also really good in Iron Spear, because he already gets a bunch of 1 hit reroll, 1 wound reroll, 1 damage reroll. So basically, if you if you attach that to the detachment rule as well, then there's so much reliability in that Lancer. I took that 1 squad of intercessors with a Thunderhammer, so when they eventually try and kill my little battle line unit, I'll use my reroll on the Thunderhammer. And I took an Impulsor. My plan was to use that 1 squad of intercessors to sticky objectives and then drive them around the battlefield.
Cool.
So that was more of that's going to happen in 1,000 points, but it's going to happen in 2,000 points as well.
Okay.
So then,
and your backfield is going to be the Lancer, I guess, in that one, because it's just going to sit in the back and shoot stuff.
Exactly, yeah. So I will have something back there. But I mean, my main thing was, I think Deep Strike is something you have to worry about more in 2,000 points, honestly, than a 1,000 point game.
Yeah, so the smaller table kind of limits the effectiveness on it, I think, a little bit.
Yeah. So in the 2,000 point list, when I scaled it up, I did put in those infiltrators, because I think they will then need to be in the backfield. I did 2 squads of scouts with that single missile launcher in each one. Like I said, I'll be able to use the hit reroll to get some punch out with the missile launcher, and I need scouts to do actions. I basically doubled up on all my vehicles, so I had another Redemptor, another Vindicator, another Lancer. I think that gives me crap loads of anti-tank, gives me a lot of those Vindicator shots, like you said. Double Vindicator is very good, and then 3 Redemptors. I've been adding another Tech Marine, just means that I'm going to be healing everything all the time, and I've got that second Tech Marine enhancement that means I can just basically, after you fail a save, Isn't it right? Yeah, so you fail the save and then you just say, no, that attack does 0 damage.
Yeah, and it's not just that as well. The Tech Marines, if you're running them up next to the Vindicators and Redemptors, then they're also adding +1 to hit on one of those vehicles each turn as well. So adding even more reliability to the shooting and attacks. It's great.
And then the last thing...
Vindicators with +1 to hit are pretty scary, to be honest.
Yeah.
And then the very last thing is an unorthodox pick. I picked a Hammer Strike because I figured, like, I've got so many attacks at reasonably high strength...
Mm-hmm.
And getting +1 to wound against anything on the tabletop is just going to just add to the sort of multiplication, all this damage coming in. I can't even say it. You know what I'm trying to say.
Force multiplier effect, yeah.
Yeah, I actually had a Ballistus Dreadnought down there, and then I was like, do you know what? I've got enough points for a Hammer Strike, and I think a Hammer Strike is going to be more impactful here, just because +1 to wound on those Vindicator tanks is going to be huge, because they're already strength 14, so it basically moves them to wounding on 2s. Basically, any enemy armor I'm going to wound on 2s with my Vindicator tanks, with my Lancers, and with the built-in hits and wound rerolls. That's just going to be really, really strong, I feel like.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So that's going to be absolutely brutal.
I was going to say, this list has nothing chapter specific. So this is a
if
generic...
I had one criticism for that list, this would be it. There's unfortunately no Blood Angel flavouring that I can see in there, really, which is a bit of a shame. But it still doesn't take anything away from its power.
No, I mean, if you were desperate, you could get some flavouring in there. But I think I was just trying to lean hard onto the detachment and just be like, what do I think if in an ideal world? And do you know what? I always just run my troops as red anyway. All my units are painted red, so I would be using my Blood Angels to play this list. And at the start of the edition, when the Blood Angels detachment wasn't good, I played Gladius a lot, and I always thought of something like this, but I'm only just getting a second Lancer now. So
I use this quite a lot at the beginning of the edition. It's sort of my favourite, because it's no secret that I love my tanks and I love my dreadnoughts, and I especially love my Vindicators with my dreadnoughts. So this was kind of how I run Blood Angels until we got Sons of Sanguinius basically upgraded to what it is now.
The extra reliability to be given from the dice reroll 1 per unit just cannot be overstated in how powerful.
I think what people sometimes forget is, just because you've got a kind of a detachment that maybe rewards vehicles and shooting, that doesn't mean that your melee units have suddenly become shit. Yeah, there's still Space Marines, and they're still actually pretty good in melee.
Yeah.
And you can't, if you stick Dante in there with a group of 6 Sanguinary Guard, they're still going to wreck some face. Maybe not as hard as if they were in Liberator Assault Group, but they're still going to do a lot of damage.
You won't get the extra attacks and the strength, but you will get the rerolls in the melee phase.
So it's worth sort of understanding that you don't necessarily have to go, right, I've got this detachment, therefore I'm not allowed to bring dedicated combat units, because you can. You're not going to get as much benefit from them. And it's the same vice versa. If you're running Sons of Sanguinius or whatever, the Liberation Assault Group, and you think, right, I need some guns. Don't think, because I've got
lots of guns.
Lots of guns. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just you have to understand that you're not going to get as much out of your detachment as you might otherwise get.
Yeah, so I think somebody just won a tournament with... Was it won a tournament?
They did.
Came second with
Mark
Irons?
Pocock is a UK player who's a really skilled player, and he won with an Ironstorm Blood Angel detachment a week or two ago from the time of filming this. And I'm not going to lie, I did have a quick look and poke at that art list, which I saw on Goonhammer before writing mine for this one.
So I haven't seen this list. I didn't know it existed, but that's all I knew about it. So I'm interested to know how that compares to what we went with.
Share it if you want. Is it worth pulling up and sharing?
Have a look maybe at the end.
Okay, all right. Should we move on?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
All right, next one. So this will be mine then. I did what I did last time, which I started with the base of the Blood Angels Combat Patrol, and I think I'm going to use it as a theme going forwards, because so many people use it as a cost-efficient way of buying stuff. And that's everything that's got the size highlighted in red there. So you get your 6 Sandguard, you get a captain, although I've put a jump pack on him as well, which you don't get in the box, but whatever, you can source a jump pack. Same way I've put jump packs on the Assault Intercessors that come in the box that don't come with jump packs, but what the hell. This is based on multiple small units are good because you only have more units to benefit from the reroll, which is fine. Obviously, vehicles are important. I've put the Reaper in there because something we discussed in the last video. I would love to have chosen to go on with Vindicator for the same reason John did, but there's a strong chance GW will squat it within a year, 2 years, next edition, whatever. So I'm focusing on stuff that is not a firstborn unit, essentially. And the Reaper's got a lot of DACA in here, and if you combine that with the Tech Marine with the target augury web to give all their shooting attacks lethal hits, and if you combine it with a 2 CP stratagem that means that the unit that they're shooting at crits on a 5 and has sustained hits 1 at the same time if they're shooting at something below starting strength, which is relatively easy to do if you soften it up with something first, then that can threaten a lot of stuff with its twin link devastating hits, Gatling gun on the top, and all this sort of stuff. So there's a lot of firepower coming out of that Reaper potentially. He's shooting with +1 ballistic skill from the Tech Marine. The Assault Intercessors jump forward and claim some objectives. The purpose of the Sandguard and the Captain is to be countercharge for people who try to base your vehicle firepower or try to charge and take the objectives away from some Assault Intercessors. And the second Tech Marine is in there because I had some points left over. Didn't really know what I wanted to fit in there for 60 points and figured that a second Tech Marine is going to be important when I expand the list out. Plus, the second Tech Marine can wander around with the other Gladiator and buff it for the time being, making a very efficient Lancer to be sat in the backfield and putting some firepower down stuff.
Like it. Makes sense.
Expanding that out, the Sanguinor's in there, partly to add some special Blood Angel flavour, partly to also act as countercharge to things that decide they want to start basing my Reapers, because there's a second Reaper and a second Lancer in here, and threaten things that want to start on a basing these tanks so their firepower isn't quite as devastating as it could be. The Infiltrators and Phobos Librarian are added in the bottom because I really like them as backfield screening and unable to be shot at from outside the 12 inches that they deny the deep strike range in. There's 10 more jump pack Marine bodies in there, so you can buy a box of 10 of the Horus Heresy Assault Marines and do 5 of them as Assault Intercessors and 5 of them as Death Company and put a chat plane with jump pack in them. And again, that 5 unit of Death Company with jump packs and a chat plane are there to act in a similar way to Sanguinary Guard and to hang back, ready to charge forwards and engage anything that starts to run forward and base the tanks or start attacking these objectives and so forth. And then I had 80 points left over, and I thought, what can I put in there for 80 points? Well, an Impulsor is exactly 80 points. It's got nothing to carry, but it's OC2. It's tough. It's a vehicle. It can speed forward and do stuff. But then I looked at it and I saw something that I've never really bothered to look at or use before, and that was the Orbital Array ability that it's got. And if I run that Impulsor forward next to the Reapers and things that go forward, I'm going to be targeting those Reapers with stratagems, pretty hefty, expensive stratagems as well to buff their firepower. And the Impulsor on a 5-up, assuming it's near to those Reapers, can maybe get some CP back and help me use those tasty stratagems more often than I otherwise would do. So
It's effectively it's going to be like a CP farm.
Yeah, essentially.
That's quite clever because that's quite
a neat idea.
Yeah. So I hadn't considered that at all before, but even if you're not carrying anything with it, I'd say it's a resilient body. CP back is great, and an Impulse is going to be useful for any other lists that you choose to build off in the future. So I thought, yeah, let's go with it.
Yeah, you're just going to need to start a Tech Marine or something inside it for anyone, because you can't have transports empty at the start of the battle. So you start a Tech Marine inside the Impulsor.
Dedicated transport. Yeah, good shout. Fair play. Well made.
But that's fine. I actually think that's a really interesting play because people don't want to shoot the Impulsor. You know, like you've got double Reaper there, you've got double Lancer there. People don't want to waste firepower on the Impulsor, so they're not going to. So it can sit there, it can do actions, it can score and engage on all fronts and all that nonsense, and you use it for a CP farm. I think it's a great idea.
Ultimately, it's about as many points as 5 Assault Intercessors. It's about as many wounds. It's about the same save. But it's, toughness 9. So,
well, and
cool.
It's got an invuln save. Well, it doesn't have the invuln save, I guess, without the orbital thing. But yes, toughness 9 makes a big difference. I was actually going to, off topic a little bit, I was actually going to drop some of the Outriders out of my Blood Angels list and put in another Gladiator, just because while I do like Outriders, they don't often kill stuff for me. They sit on objectives. I think if you were just sitting on an objective, an impulsor with a toughness 9 and the same amount of wounds, basically. I think the impulsor is 1 less wound than 3 outriders, but it's the toughness 9
what's the
that
OC
makes a
of
big
3
difference.
outriders? Is that OC
It's
3?
6. They are 2 each.
So that's
But the
6
thing
OC rather than 2 OC, which is it's not nothing.
But the outriders are usually just sitting on an objective. They're not really contesting it much. They're just sitting there and they're getting plinked away by bolter fire or flamer fire or whatever it is. Whereas impulsor
you might
much
think
more.
You could hide outriders, but if somebody wants to get a line of sight on them, you probably can't really.
Yeah.
I want to steal that now. I want to ditch some outriders for an impulsor with basically nothing in it. I think that might not be a bad idea. I think that's something. I've not seen that. That's a clever idea. I like it.
Yeah. Random inspiration brought to you 2 hours ago. There we go.
There we go.
Cool. Moving on.
The...
Oh no, go on.
Yeah, I like the fact that we actually. No, I have a Gladiator Reaper, and I feel like this edition I never got to play it. So I like the fact that you can play it. It feels like it's good in this list. I think that's an inherent problem with Space Marines, though, is like some tanks are good in detachments, which means they have to be rubbish in the other detachments, which is really sad.
I would have loved to put Baals in here instead of the Reapers, but again, that principle of it being a firstborn tank and not likely to have much longevity sadly applies. So I can't recommend it as an investment.
The Dakar Baal is a bit shit.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is sad because it's such a cool model. I actually bought one of the Horus Heresy Baal Predator upgrade kits.
Oh yeah,
not a Horus Heresy one because that just looks so.
And I bet it looks gorgeous as well with that kit all on it.
Such a cool model.
Okay.
All right.
Shall we
move on? Tony's list. I should play guard. Okay, fair enough. I love that artwork behind it. Is that from an Epic box?
Yeah, that was the old Epic 40,000. Because I was looking for something like Space Marine tanks, and actually it's quite hard to find any art for Space Marine tanks.
Yeah.
And ironically, there's Land Raiders and some old style Land Speeders and stuff in there. And apart from the Land Raider, well, that one's a Land Raider Proteus, so none of those vehicles are viable in current 40k. They're all in Legends.
Oh god, that seems sadly true. Yeah,
sadly true. It's a cool little bit of art. So. Let me talk through the logic behind it first. And it's similar in some ways to what Mark was saying about the idea of going MSU to get the maximum use out of my strat. So, because I'm a bit controversial, I've not gone crazy heavy with the vehicles for my Ironstorm list. I know it's not in my normal character, but what I've gone with is kind of little units that could get a lot out of those rerolls.
Cool.
So, I've got a chaplain in there with the flesh is weak. That's because I have some spare points, but still, giving a chaplain a 4-up feel no pain is quite fun for only a few points. And he's got a squad of Blade Guard veterans, and that's kind of my counter charge unit. I think 3 Blade Guard veterans with a chaplain, even without the Blood Angels buffs, still going to do a little bit of damage as a
How much is a Judicia compared to a chaplain?
Slightly cheaper.
I think he's
doesn't give the bonus to wounding.
Yeah, the chaplain's giving the +1 to wound.
He's defensive more from having the granted the fight first. But
he can precision sometimes, and if you can kill a character, he becomes stronger every time he kills a character. He gets +1 attacks that last the rest of the game. So
it depends on the purpose, whether you want them to be defensive, hold the line, or go out and kill stuff unit.
So you hang back a little bit and it charges things and try and clear stuff off your tanks, basically, or your shooting units. Because I have gone very shooting heavy here, and I've absolutely. Yeah, what do you expect?
Yeah,
I brought the Tech Marine because the Tech Marine's buff to things to shooting is so useful, and the healing's can be very handy as well. I've got a couple of squads of 3 Eradicators. 3 Eradicators with rerolls for damage if I need it, or wounding, whatever. They're little tiny squads. They've not got a lot of shooting, so you want that to couple with their own innate rerolls. I think that's going to make them pretty reliable to do a decent amount of damage.
Yeah, seems fair.
I've got a couple of squads of those. I've got a couple of Gladiator Lancers. Again, it's the Lancer. It's got a lot of shooting at long range. Really reliable with the unit buff.
Yep.
And then I've brought 2 squads of Inceptors. Now, I'm thinking probably Plasma Inceptors for this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because, again, little tiny unit of 3. The Plasmas hit quite hard. So making sure that they hit, or making sure that at least some of them wound, that's going to be another really quite valuable use of that detachment ability.
That makes sense.
So, also the good thing about them, even in a small game like this, is they might not look it because they're big old fat boy gravis, but actually that allows me to do some dropping down on objectives. It gives me a little bit of mobility, but I'm still getting the most out of that detachment buff.
True.
You might note that I have no battle line whatsoever.
Well, you'll
Fair.
fix that in another 1,000, maybe.
Yeah, maybe, but really, it's just kind of the old.
I suppose the only
Shift
question would
everything
be,
off the table. I don't have to worry about scoring points.
what would be the first? Oh, yeah, okay. So you're not worried about moving things out to sit on an objective turn 1 or turn 2 or anything?
Yeah, basically, I can drop Zeppelins on objectives as I want to.
Mm-hmm.
But really, this is just about maximum firepower, absolutely kill things before they can score enough points, basically.
The enemy cannot
Dead
score a
men score
point
no
if you
points.
disable their army. Okay. Yep.
So it's that kind of thing. Yeah, the flesh is weak. We just kill everything. Now, I priced it up. And it was 350 quid for this, which is feels a lot. I think my Blood Angels one was like 290 something, but
It's the tanks.
Some of these units are really expensive.
I was going to say the Gravis units are pretty expensive considering you only get like
You
3
can drop
guys.
this down to about 290 if you shop around.
Oh, yeah, you got
something
4
on eBay
graphic
because
units, haven't
Blade
you?
Guard veterans were in the Indomitus sets. There's still a few of the monopose ones a little bit cheaper floating around.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many Eradicators.
That's 4 boxes of Gravis, isn't it?
Yeah. But, I mean, Gravis is good to have just because they're not many people have armies that are efficient at killing T6.
Yeah.
Like a T6 is a weird one where like your small arms fire is just not good against them, if that makes sense.
Makes sense.
So it should be fairly durable and it should do a lot of damage was what I was going for, and to hell with everything else.
Cool.
Yeah. I was going to say, just hope you don't play against 100 guardsmen or...
Well, except Physical Blast.
Oh, sure. Lancers and Eradicators. I've played against the 100 guardsmen list with Eradicators. It felt really horrible. It's like you have 140 guardsmen. I have 4 mouth of shots.
Yeah. But I feel like that's sort of like extreme. Extreme skill is always going to be a problem. And this is an extreme skill.
Yeah,
this will either absolutely nuke your opponent, and they'll hate you for it, or you're going to be completely screwed.
That's what they call a gatekeeper list. That makes sense.
You know. So it's got a purpose, and at 1,000 points, I feel that the kind of going down that skew route is probably a stronger bet, which is the opposite of what I like to do at larger games. Because at 1,000 points, having like a single very expensive units and Death Star units, your opponent can deal with it, or they lose. And that's kind of where I've gone down with this group here. So we flip over the expanding up to 2,000 points. So bringing it out up to 2,000 points. I've not added an awful lot of stuff here, but what I have done is rounded it out a little bit.
Okay.
So the chaplain's lost his enhancement because I needed the points to give my Tech Marine Master of the Machine War. So they've kind of swapped places on this one. The Tech Marine is now the
Master of the Machine War is fall back and charge. Fall back and shoot advance and shoot for all your vehicles.
Yeah, so you can shoot even if it fell back or advance, which I think can be quite a useful thing because it is a weak to get charged off. So being able, especially there's a ballistas in there. I forgot to put the points on. It's 130. If that gets tagged, it can be a little bit awkward. So being able to let it fall back and still shoot could be quite valuable. Nice. And even with the other one, it's going to reduce their firepower by quite a lot. So I think it was worth it. My Blade Guard have gone up to a 6-man squad. I did think about running 2 smaller squads, but then I thought, nah, bugger it. 6 Blade Guard with a chaplain, even non-Blood Angels versions, that's going to do a fairly hefty amount of damage on the charge. Not many things that I'm going to want to charge with infantry. I can't kill with that squad.
Yeah, true.
Okay.
If it's super tough, I'm going to charge it with the now 2 Redemptor Dreadnoughts that I've got.
They're full up, are they? Yeah, no worries. Okay.
So, my Blade Guard are now at 6. I've also put 2 units of heavy intercessors in there. The reason for that is I wanted a little bit of battle line because there are some missions that where they can come in useful. And I thought, right, if I go heavy intercessors, we're still sticking with that theme of small numbers of guys, little units, but fairly punchy shots. And the heavy intercessors rifles and the heavy bottle have got a little bit more punch than the other battle line units.
They do, yeah.
So I feel like I'm going to get slightly more out of the detachment abilities.
Yeah, they can
And
start to
still
chew
Gravis.
through some of those Horde type units that you might face. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's also still Gravis.
Yeah.
So again, I'm limiting the effectiveness of my opponent's kind of anti-infantry fire because they really don't have anything to shoot it into.
Yeah, this kind of size battle, you will quite happily fight units of 20-person blobs of Necrons or Termagants or whatever.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that kind of firepower is useful, and you're right.
Yeah.
It's
So I've got a little bit there. I've kept my Eradicators there, my Lancers are still there, my Inceptors are still there. I've also brought 2 units of Outriders, although now, because Mark's been telling me, I'm thinking, oh, do I drop that and bring an Impulsor? For those Blade Guard veterans instead.
Yeah, makes sense.
Which is doable. I might do. But I quite liked having those Outriders there. They're pretty tough. They're pretty fast. They're really quite good for objective taking. And like we were sort of mentioning earlier, this list lacks a bit of that kind of nipping out and holding objectives. And if you do need a trading unit, although that does make me want to vomit using that term, Outriders are a pretty good one for it because you don't really care if they die.
Yeah, it's definitely a slow, sloggy list in general, apart from those.
Yeah, so it just gives me a little bit that I can nip out. The Inceptors can still drop down and back them up. I've stuck a Ballistas in there. I did think it might be overkill, but I thought there's no such thing as overkill. There's only ever just enough kill. And a couple of Redemptors. That Redemptor gives me another counter-charge threat. And again, as we've discussed before, they get really good use out of the strats in this detachment and the special rule in this detachment. So it's still vaguely down that same theme of dead men hold no objectives. I've still gone very heavy, so with the intention of making it more difficult for my opponents. Hopefully, they spent a lot of points on chaff clearing that now don't do anything to me. I feel like that could be quite a valuable thing because you've just negated part of your opponent's army. It's still a very skewy list, although it's balanced out some of its weak points with a little bit more speed and a little bit more chaff clearance because the Outriders actually aren't bad for chaff clearance as well. So if you just want to be able to charge them off of objectives, things like that, they get a lot of attacks.
I like what we've... Do you know what? I thought I would be stepping on your toes with my list, but it seems like I went super armor, you went armor and durability, and then Mark went Blood Angel, speed, and shooting. So it's like you have 3... This is why it's quite good that we do these in isolation, because you just get 3 completely different takes on... And all 3 of these are totally valid. Like, you can run any of these 3 lists. You know, Mark's is the most flavorful Blood Angels. I guess mine is the most flavorful Iron Hands, and Tony's somewhere in the middle. So it's pretty cool.
That is bonkers, but I did. You'll note no Vindicators, and it's exactly the same reason as Mark. You know, I love my Vindicators. There's my Vindicator for the tournament Mark and I are going to in a couple of weeks or a week or so now. They're brilliant. I love them. I just wouldn't. If you're going out and buying an army tomorrow, I don't think I could in any good faith recommend you bought a Vindicator at the moment, even though I think they're great and they work brilliant in this.
If you've already got them, they're great, but they're not sound investments.
So I costed it up at £691 direct from GW.
That does seem like a lot, but the other thing I wanted to say is like I think my favorite unit since the Blood Angels Codex has come out is honestly the Chaplain plus the 6 Blade Guard veterans.
Yeah.
So
I think you mean in Sons of Sanguinius or whatever.
Yeah, in Sons of Sanguinius, just because the +1 to wound on them all the time is really really awesome with the amount of attacks and rerolls they get built in and stuff.
I still a little bit prefer my Terminators. There's not much in it, and I like the fact they get a bit of chaff clearance.
Okay, yeah.
I like that. It's not a lot of shooting, but they do get a bit of shooting as well.
And
I think for me, in the way I play, I just like having that little bit more flexibility than Blade Guard. Blade Guard will murderify anything they charge, or even get charged by with the right attack enhancement. But Terminators aren't far behind on the damage.
Anything short of vehicle armor, at least, anyway. Yeah,
and they can still shoot. And I love the fact that I'm punching everybody at strength 10 on Sanguinius. That's hilarious.
Yes, that is good. Cool.
So I think we went 3 very different ways on this, didn't we?
Awesome. Let's just quickly take a look at that tournament placing list that we mentioned from Mr. Mark Pocock.
Yeah, I'm really interested about how far away we are from this because I really genuinely have not seen it.
Right. Well,
I think it's got
existed.
This is care of Goonhammer and their Competitive Innovations weekly article where they go through winning lists and give them coverage. Thoroughly recommend Goonhammer as being an extremely valuable resource for Warhammer.
Yep.
So this was at the Napalm Hobbies Frostfire GT earlier in November, which was still November at the time of filming, like a few weeks ago then. 30-player, 5-round grand tournament, fine.
Yeah.
And this is the list that he ran. So you got Blood Angels Ironstorm, 2,000 points, and we'll start off there. Captain Gravis Armor with the 4+ Feel No Pain, Mephiston, Lamartis to lead some Death Company.
Yeah.
The Tech Marine with the Resilience, the adept to the Omnisire that reduces an attack down to 0 damage on a vehicle within 6.
Yeah.
And the Sanguinor is providing counter charge. You got 2 Baal Preds running the Flamestorm turrets and Heavy Flamer side sponsons on both of them. You got 10 Death Company fully kitted out because to go with Lamartis and provide counter charge for similar sorts of stuff. 2 Reapers fully kitted out for all the Dakar. And then a squad of 5 Infiltrators. An Invader, 2 Invader ATVs with the multi-melters at 60 points each. So I guess they're just throwaway fast multi-melters more than anything else. And 3 Predator Destructors to round out the list, each of them with
it's an interesting list.
cannon turret and 2 last cannon sponsors, identical in loadout.
I mean, there's everything in here, with the exception of some of the melee stuff. He's going to get a decent amount out of the buff, isn't it?
And this is Goonhammer's analysis of the list and what they thought about it and their views. So,
Well, we'll link it below in the description, I think.
Yeah, I can scroll back if you want to review it a bit more.
No, just what's in the most interesting thing, I guess, for me is that he's got Mephiston, who we know has got the 4-up Feel No Pain.
Yep.
The Captain in Gravis Armor, which he's given the 4-up Feel No Pain to us. He has no one to attach to because there's nothing.
Where does he go?
He can't attach to anything in this list. But what's interesting is that Captain in Gravis Armor does have a rule called Refusal to Yield. Each time an attack is allocated to that model, you half the damage. So that Captain in Gravis Armor is toughness 6 with 6 wounds. He's halving all incoming damage, and then he's 4-up Feel No Paining anything that comes through his save. So he's only 90 points. I mean, he only has like 6 attacks with a Power Fist, 5 attacks with a Power Fist, but I think he's going to surprise people because they're not going to expect him to be just like if you think Mephiston's durable, he's 1 more toughness on Mephiston. He has the exact same wounds with the 4-up Feel No Pain. It's just a half damage. Like against Power Fist.
He's got better invuln as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, true. Yeah, 4-up invuln as well.
He's got better invuln. He's better in every way defensively.
The only thing he doesn't have defensively would be Lone Op.
Yeah. But I think people are going to underestimate him big time because
he's not going to kill anything, but he's going to be horrible to shift, isn't he?
Yeah.
Well, he still gets 5 Power Fist attacks. It's not the worst thing.
You get the Captain buffs in there as well. They're pretty useful.
Yeah, he can use a stratagem on himself for free, I guess.
Yeah.
Is there a stratagem that would be good on him?
Armor of Contempt.
Oh, I suppose Armor of Contempt, yeah.
Even more. Just make him that bit more annoying to shift.
I think that would be the only thing you could use on him, probably.
Out of the strats that are in there. Yeah, realistically, I can't think of any others.
It's probably not worth it.
Do you know what? You could use Mercy as weakness. So until the end of the phase, each time this model makes an attack against the units below starting strength. So you could give us Power Fist sustained on 5s.
You could do, yeah. I suppose,
and it would be 1 CB
extra
cheaper. You're unlikely
output.
to be using Mercy as weakness in the combat phase for any other reason, right?
Yeah.
I'd have to say, actually, I really like that Captain.
I'm actually trying to. So if you got wounded 10 times with Power Fists, right? So like you would on half damage. That's maximum maximum of 10 damage. You save half of them, so it's 5, and then you feel no pain half of them again. So basically, if the enemy gets you with 10 AP2 minus 2, you only lose 2.5 wounds. It's pretty crazy, actually.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful, that. I like the Predators. Again, I haven't included any Firstborn stuff because I wouldn't suggest anybody went out and bought it at the moment. But I really do like those Predator Destruction. I think they're really good.
Mark's been playing for years. I faced him at a tournament when I was getting back into this like 10 or 12 odd years ago. And he was a really good player back then, so he's got a lot of history. 40k, he's almost certainly had these kicking around for quite some time. So
Yeah, I think sometimes people forget that a lot of these kind of tournament players haven't just come into the hobby now. They've got big collections they can draw on, and they can
a big friend
optimize.
circle and contacts who will lend a tank here and a tank there, and that's
Yeah, absolutely. So, because I think sometimes people go out and then they look at this and they go, "Oh my god, I need to go out and buy all these vehicles, and all these vehicles are going to become redundant in 2 years, and how can these?" But it's just worth bearing in mind that people are drawing on that, and whilst some of these, especially the first one tanks, are really great, they're only small percentages better than some of the newer stuff.
Which is cynically a reason why GW is squatting all the firstborn stuff, so they can make people buy all the new tanks and not just sit on those laurels.
I do think if you're not in this kind of like absolute cutthroat top level tournament environment, being 5% more efficient really isn't that big a deal.
No, I agree, 100%.
But if it is, then it is. And
if it is, then you pay your money.
Yeah.
And risk losing it in a couple of years.
Right.
Shall we go back to our...
Yeah. Give me a second. I'll just pop it back up. There we go.
I do like that Gravis Captain. It'll only work in Ironstorm. You need that 4 uphill, no pain for 10 points, but...
Yeah, I've converted a Gravis Captain a little while ago when I saw that potential combo kicking around. I never got to use him. I think I was going to use him in a boarding action somewhere or something related to that, but it's a tasty combo. You're absolutely not wrong.
It doesn't come up very often, huh?
No.
I love this new slide for Pile of Glory, but I hate the fact that you've actually put Pile of Glory.
And that it's spelt correctly, yeah. Turning the grey into greatness. How long did it take you to think of that?
Like 30 seconds, honestly. I didn't think it was very good.
You would line up in the middle of the night. It's like, bang, bolt upright. I've got turning the grey into greatness.
Kids are woken me up again. What am I going to do? I'm trying to get back to sleep. You got that little meme with a brain saying...
I was going to say, I watched Ninja, and he always says slay the grey, so it probably came as an inspiration from Ninja.
Yeah, that's fair.
Turning the grey... No, it's Irish.
Right,
Right,
what we got here first?
What have you been doing, John?
I'm slowly painting Dante. He will be finished maybe by the Christmas holidays. Don't know. I converted the Sangre Guard, a Primaris Sangre Guard with Crimson Lord bits, and gave him a double-bladed staff because I wanted him a banner and have blades.
Very nice. That looks really cool. Yeah.
It does look really good. I might steal that idea because
the
then
one
if they
thing bugs me about it though, and I'm sorry to criticize it because it looks really good, but the fact that one blade is vertical and one blade is horizontal on the same weapon, that bugs me, and I don't.
Someone else said that bugged them as well, but I couldn't. The banner only goes on one way, so I couldn't.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't give enough clearance to get past. If you did him without wings, you could probably do the what you were talking about and have the banner flying out behind him. But the wing jump pack prevented that, basically.
That's fair enough.
I like this because when GW inevitably changed them so that you can't take the sword and banner on the same model because you can't take the sword and banner on the same model in the kit, you can still go a spit.
Yeah.
Yeah, at that point it'll become a spear again. Yes.
Absolutely.
And I'm slowly working on this Ballistus Dreadnought. I put a couple of bits off that new Blood Angels upgrade sprue on him, like on his left pauldron type area.
I see.
They're okay. They're nothing special, and I put a 3D printed cape on him because I'm just trying to make him a bit different from other Ballistus Dreadnought.
That's fair. And some tentacles on his base or whatever.
It's the head of a Lord of Change.
Oh, it's a Lord of Change, is it? Okay.
Yeah, it's like that's his tongue sticking out.
Oh, I see it now. Yep. Okay, got it.
So I tried contrast paint for the first time on that. I think I need to maybe paint it white again and then put another coat of contrast paint on. Because I painted the contrast paint over like a black zenithal and I don't think it was enough.
No, you don't want to do that because the contrast isn't a layer of paint. It's a stain on what's below it. So you got to put it on something that it'll stain and show the colour, and black won't do that.
You can do it over a black zenithal because what I do, but you need a really aggressive zenithal.
Yeah, so I think I need to go much, much higher and try again, which is fine.
Bring the right up to white and then do it, and then it looks okay.
Dante's looking good.
Yeah, he'll be finished eventually. Thanks.
I can wait. Awesome. Cool. What we got next? Oh, me. So this is my stuff. This is the stuff I'm working on for the tournament I'm going to attend in next week with Tony in doubles. You got Death Company there. You got the Sangard and the little base expandery things, and you got the Dante and Astrath and Eversaw that I'm working on. They're all still work in progress. The bases aren't uniform, although they're getting there. Yeah.
How do
That's
you
the
do your
things.
bases?
So they are Astra Granite texture. Is it Astra
Oh, right,
Granite?
yeah,
Might well
Astra
be.
Granite, yeah.
It's the one that looks like Mechanica standard grey colour, but texture on there. Cover them all, slosh it all over the base, coat it in black ink, and then give it a Fenris light grey dry brushing highlight to bring them up a bit and give them a bit of colour. And that's what you can see on the Eversaw and on the Death Company on the top row there.
Yeah.
And one at the Sangard.
Very nice.
So yeah,
I
Well, Dante's coming along nicely as well.
thank you.
I like your the direction Astrath looks like. He's very bloody. His wings look very bloody.
So the way I've done that is the entire thing was sprayed Mephiston red before given a Caraberg red crimson ink wash all over just to do it down. Then I went over the wings with the black contrast, so you can see the red shining through the black. That's what it's like, the stain over the red. And then they've got a couple of coats of gloss varnish over them as well. That's what's given them that effect that you can see there.
Yeah, that's nice. I haven't seen something like that before.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I like
Nice.
edge highlighting pisses me the hell off. So I prefer using different finishes in matte and gloss to achieve that kind of a finish instead to edge highlighting. It just bugs me.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, mate. I hate edge highlighting, so I do very little of it. All in one volumetric. I rarely edge highlight anything.
So yeah, there we go.
Cool.
So I really haven't given that many detailed pictures, to be honest, but this is kind of where I'm at. Not all of this has just been painted. So the two Vindicators were already done, and a couple of those Terminators at the front there were already done. But this is kind of where I'm at for the tournament as well. So I've made this kind of tray thing. So the Vindicators are now on bases, and then there's a kind of a giant movement tray that fills up the whole of this thing so that the models don't really move.
Which you made in some program and 3D printed it.
Yeah.
Did
so
you
I
print
made
it all in one
Fusion,
bit, or you have to print it in multiple bits and stick it together?
two pieces.
Okay.
But then it's got a little bit of double-sided tape to stick it into the tray. Now, they're not stuck down or anything, but they do work all right. So now I've got the heavy intercessors are now done. They're okay. I've got the infiltrators are now been redone into this kind of camo Rogue Trader paint scheme.
Yep.
My new Terminators have changed the loadout for the squad have been done, and the Terminator Chaplain is now here and looking fun. So they're all done. The bases aren't done though, because although they've had sand and some green stuff and stuff like that on them, I haven't painted them because I need to make up a batch of different paints. So I'm gonna make up a big one and do them all at once. The rest of the stuff is getting there. So the last unit you can see me working on is my spiffing new command squad, which is kind of a mixture of weird old models and new ones.
Yep.
So you can sort of see where I've almost got to that. They've all been readied up. I'm working on various things. The captain's now got an ice yellow fist.
Why is he on such a small base, the captain?
Sorry?
Why is the captain on such a small base?
Oh, he's not. That's a painting handle.
Oh, right, okay. Okay.
So they're all on painting handles at the moment, but these guys are actually mounted on their base onto the handle.
Yeah.
Whereas the captain's base, he's got a scenic one, but it's push fit onto it.
All right, okay.
He fits onto it, so I might as well leave it off.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay.
So he's got no one. And these ones, for example, like this is the heavy bolter. Obviously, they don't come with a. This is a literal. I took it out of the blister pack. It's the old metal and plastic hybrid kit, and I got a blister pack off eBay. So the 25mm base that he came with really isn't suitable for modern things. So I've 3D printed him a new base.
How much did a metal heavy bolter guy in a blister pack cost on eBay?
Right, have a guess.
I'd say about £8 to £10.
I was going to say 30.
So a lot of these old metal miniatures are really valuable now. But this one,
okay.
brand new in blister, was 15 quid.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, I thought it would be more than that.
So I thought that was all right. The only one in that squad that is genuinely ridiculously valuable is this one. Now, you can't see him very well because he's not... I'm just sort of working on him.
Yeah.
Um,
With his dirty Ultramarine logo on the banner.
With his logos and Ultramarines as well. Because he was a special edition miniature you got with the Skulls program back in 1999.
Oh, he's that
So
guy.
you couldn't just buy him. But even the base is metal.
So Skulls, for those who don't know, was like a loyalty reward thing that GW did once upon a time where they gave things away. Where you for every 10 quid or something you spend, you got a skull, and then it cost you so many skulls to trade in for a reward. Yeah. And that was one of the top.
And it was that kind of idea, and he was like the top prize on it. So he's completely metal, even the base, which is mad. It's the only one I've ever seen with a metal base on it. But obviously, he's incredibly short, even compared to other models at the time. So he was contemporary, even newer, I think, than that Heavy Bolter guy, but he's still much smaller even than the Heavy Bolter guy.
Yeah, because he's made of a scale of a similar period of the very first RTB Marines.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's kind of almost a 25mm scale, whereas now we're on kind of a 32mm. So he looked ridiculously tiny. So I had to 3D print this kind of plinth and then mount the base onto the plinth and kind of putty it on there. Because no GW, this really annoys me, but a GW 40mm base is actually about 38.5mm.
Okay.
That's very annoying because when you're making a movement tray, obviously I make them at 40mm and a bit. So they end up being a little bit rattly. But all of my 3D printed ones are exactly 40mm. Now, I was talking to someone about this the other day, and it's kind of, am I modelling for advantage? Because I have made 40mm bases, because as specified by Games Workshop, they're on 40mm bases. But GW's 40mm bases, if you measure them with your set of calipers, which I'm now going to do just to prove I'm not mental.
You are mental.
Right? So, Terminator,
we all know you're mental.
I don't know if you can see the numbers on that, but that is
we
zeroed
can
up.
see the numbers, yeah.
Right? $39mm.
Yep.
Okay. Cool.
That's not 40.
It's not.
And actually,
it
if
is
you go
objectively
through the
not
GW
40mm.
Not one of their bases is the size it says it is.
Have you had a beer?
No, not yet.
That's probably right. Okay.
I was going to say, don't tempt him. You'll be down your local.
If you're sitting there with your bloody Fusion trying to CAD model things, and you find out that everything you've just worked out is based on the assumption that 40 is 40, it's bloody annoying.
So when I've bought 40mm bases on eBay,
yeah,
to put my guys to rebase my bases, they're a millimeter too big.
So I'm not sure if that's modelling for advantage.
Well, that's modelling for, I thought 40 written on paper was 40 that I should buy, I guess.
That's my point. So the 3D printed ones I've made are 40. Have I just tried to cheat?
Why do they call them 40s if they're 38.9?
Maybe they think people are going to put loads of paint on it and that'll expand it back by a few.
So maybe nobody's going to get set calipers.
I was going to say no one's doing second edition paint anymore.
Yeah,
but it is genuinely a question because I honestly don't know the answer to this. If I go to a tournament and all of my bases are actually 40mm, but I'm playing against an opponent that's using 39mm, and I know it's only 1mm, but we're talking about like auras and things like that. That's going to mean over, say, a 5-man squad that's 5mm.
I'm sure it'll be fine. 40k gamers are not, as a people, known for being pernickety, over detail, or pedantic in any way, shape, or form about the tiniest thing that they think might get themselves rules advantage.
So, please write in the comments if I'm cheating.
I mean, I just put wings onto my Dante and wings onto my Sangre-Guard, making all those models bigger, so thus modelling for disadvantage. So I guess if I have the right size bases, they'll average out.
Yeah.
It's all fine.
Cool.
So, yeah, I think I might be inadvertently cheating.
There we go.
I think it's good. I think it's a good idea to, or I think it's a nice homage that you have used all those old models to redo this new company, because they're not called company heroes anymore, are they? They're called.
They are now. They're they are now called company heroes. Then they
Sorry,
used to be
They
called
used to be the
command
command
squad.
squad.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So I've
Thank
used
you.
some models out the old command squad and all sorts. I've also started. I've not put it in there because there's no rules for it. But I had some of the old metal apothecary that went with it as well.
Yeah.
So I've got the current plastic command squad, or the older plastic command squad, and I've got the even older metal ones. And I thought, well, bollocks to it, and I'm going to find me. I've got the original metal librarian, I've got the original sort of like metal apothecary and that. And I thought, well, over time, I'll build it out so it's full 10-man squad
Mhm.
using this kind of mixture of old and new.
Yeah,
Those
like
will be
that.
fun.
I feel very
Yeah.
sad with some of the old models going away, so I think it's a really nice homage that you've done there.
That Skulls model is genuinely very valuable now.
Oh god, yeah. At least like 50 quid
But I've
plus.
never used it for anything. It's been sitting in a box for 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, you know what? Bugger it. I'm going to mount it on a little plinth and I'm going to use it for something. So his first outing ever, and probably his last one, is going to be a tournament.
Yeah, painting the stuff that I'm currently painting in here has got me thinking maybe I need to finish that Blood Angels Games Day captain I've got with the pose like this and get him done at some point soon.
I'm going to be rotating company heroes back into my list, so
Yeah.
I wouldn't write the company heroes off yet.
Along with the Gravis captain.
Not the Gravis
Just-
captain, but I am putting company heroes back in my list, I think.
Okay,
It'll drop down to just 5 Death Company in my tournament list.
fair enough. I hear off the grapevine that you did not do well in your game last night.
I mean, I did fine. I was 21 points ahead going into turn 5 and lost, but
How did you lose 21 points ahead going in? What happened there?
you scored 22, I guess.
And you scored 0? Wow, okay.
Well, no, I mean, like, I was 21 point. I went first, so he was going second, and he had a 21-point deficit. But I picked in turn 5. I picked no missions I could score. So it could have been my game. It's literally if I picked some, like if I drawn some missions.
Factor.
Yeah. But Mortarian's aura is absolutely brutal into the new Sangre because it nullifies their -1 to hit and their -1 to wound. And he had Mortarian camped out like with 10 death, well not 10 death rounds, let's say 6 death round next to him. So like all of those guys ignoring all the buffs that the Sangre Guard have was horrific. So I think in future, I need to learn that, or I needed to learn that. I'm not going to run the Sangre Guard anywhere near Mortarian.
Yeah.
Like he debuffs them too hard. They could have gone around and killed on other objectives, and we'll know that for next time. So
yeah.
That's why you play the game, isn't it? You now know. Ignore that very slow unit Death Shroud with the Mortarian nearby. Go and do other things and
pain is
one
one of the strongest teachers, as they say.
Yeah. So thanks so much for watching this week, guys.
So what video should they all watch next first?
Well, last week, like I said, we did the video in the Liberator Assault group. That is the video that pipped us over to 1,500 subscribers. Thanks very much for being a subscriber if you're new here, or if you are a subscriber for a long time. We've been trying to get it and grow the channel for a while, so it feels good, I think, to 1,500.
And we've had a giveaway planned for a very long time, and we've not gotten around to it when we should bloody well do so. And we will bloody well do so.
Cool.
Imminently. When we get around to it again.
So yeah, click that video wherever it appears on the screen, either there or maybe there. Or
yeah. What direction?
There.
That way?
That way.
Okay.
Remember, find the fun with what you're doing, subscribe responsibly, and we'll catch you all on the next one. Cheers, everybody.
Ciao.
Peace. Right.